India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar recently embarked on a 3-day visit to Italy, where he participated in the G7 foreign ministers meeting. Besides engaging with key global leaders, of course, including the outgoing US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Jaishankar prioritized strengthening India-Italy bilateral relations as well. One of the key highlights of his visit was the inauguration of the new Indian embassy premises in Rome. So, the India-Italy bilateral relationship, once strained, began improving significantly when Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte visited India in 2018. This trip laid the groundwork for enhanced cooperation, which finally culminated in the launch of the first action plan for enhanced partnership, and this lasted between 2020 and 2024. The collaboration reached new heights in October of 21 when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Italy and announced that the country's bilateral ties would be upgraded to a strategic partnership. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni reciprocated with her visit to India in March 2023, where she was chief guest at the 8th Raisina Dialogue as well. And that's not all. Under India's G20 presidency in 2023, two significant developments bolstered bilateral ties. One, that Italy joined the Biofuel Alliance, and two, that it became a signatory to the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or the IMEC. Therefore, Jaishankar's recent visit to Italy for the G7 meeting presented a timely opportunity to discuss the newly signed Joint Strategic Action Plan, now for the next 5 years, which is between 2025 and 2029, which focuses on collaboration in critical areas such as defense, trade, energy, and space. The plan reflects a strategic alignment between the two nations, and this plan was signed during a virtual G20 summit under Brazil's presidency. So, if I am to consolidate the development into key verticals, there are two main verticals in the many areas of convergence I just told you about, which were agreed upon. One is trade and connectivity, and the second is security and defense. And I'll discuss both these verticals separately. Bilateral trade between the two countries is valued at approximately 15 billion euros, with India enjoying an export advantage, which is also true of India's trade with most of its Western partners like the US, the UK, and the EU. Italy is India's 18th largest investor, having contributed a cumulative foreign direct investment, or FDI, of about $3.5 billion from 2000 to 2023. In contrast, Indian investments in Italy are relatively modest, somewhere about $400 million only. What is special about Italy is its strategic location in the Mediterranean, which positions it as a key partner in enhancing connectivity between India and Europe. India's push for greater involvement in the region aligns with its broader goal of diversifying trade routes and building resilience in its export pathways. So, the announcement of the IMEC corridor actually underscores the shared commitment to improving connectivity, though the project faces challenges due to the unstable security situation in the Middle East today. But in my opinion, and nevertheless, efforts to strengthen the India-Europe trade corridor must continue, with Italy playing a pivotal role. And in the next few sections, I'll tell you how. In fact, to better understand the connectivity jigsaw and its missing pieces, let me first tell you a little bit more about India's plans for maritime connectivity and focus on developing strategic ports. Europe's gradual move to de-risk from China is unfolding despite differences among its member states. In the case of Italy, a notable aspect of this shift is the strategic importance of the port of Trieste, which serves as a key gateway to Central and East European markets. So, by investing in Trieste, India could secure substantial commercial benefits while reinforcing Italy's commitment to India following its withdrawal from China's Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI. In fact, for the uninitiated, Italy is the only G7 nation to have joined the BRI, only to exit it a few years later. So this decision demonstrates the recognition of the risks tied to economic over-reliance on China, whose trade relationships are often heavily skewed in Beijing's favor. So it's basically China that is able to reap the benefits of BRI projects. A January 2024 assessment underscores the Trieste doc's economic significance, noting a contribution of approximately 7.5 million euros to the local economy with an annual production value of about 2 billion euros. Beyond these figures, the port's strategic value lies in its ability to connect diverse international trade routes and also attracting traffic that might otherwise be routed through foreign ports. This basically makes Trieste a critical asset in global commerce, and that is why India is interested there. And there is more to understanding this particular analysis. Trieste's potential as a strategic port is actually comparable to Thessaloniki in Greece, a port India should consider developing as an alternative to Piraeus. I'm sure you've heard about Piraeus. Piraeus, which is a Greek port, is actually controlled by China's COSCO Shipping Corporation, and it exemplifies the risks of over-reliance on Beijing. And this was evident particularly during the Greek 2009 financial crisis. So, focusing on Trieste and Thessaloniki, India can avoid Chinese influence while gaining access to Central and East European markets, which collectively boast a GDP of over $1 trillion. So India's strategic push into the Mediterranean is further strengthened by robust relationships with other countries in the region. In fact, I call it other countries along the Mediterranean arc. India has long-standing ties with Cyprus and has recently deepened its engagement with Greece. In the Adriatic Sea, which is situated between Greece and Italy, is flanked by Balkan nations such as Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro. India's recent diplomatic outreach to the Balkans, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which was led by Dr. Jaishankar, underscores India's commitment to expanding its presence in this vital region. Now, let me tell you about another country. France is another cornerstone of India's European strategy for the Mediterranean. Now, despite already strong ties with Paris, India continues to seek new areas of cooperation, exemplified by a decision to open a new consulate in Marseille, which again is a key maritime hub. Meanwhile, Spain, an important defense partner, also offers untapped economic potential, signaling opportunities for future growth in bilateral ties as well as India's Mediterranean strategy. So, the key takeaway here is that India's growing presence and investment in these Mediterranean countries are crucial to the eventual realization of the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, which is the IMEC corridor. So, strengthening these ties ensures that India remains well positioned to benefit from this vital trade and connectivity initiative whenever geopolitical conditions are more favorable. Let's now discuss the second vertical, which is the defense and security cooperation. A significant milestone in India-Italy defense relations occurred during a virtual summit in 2020 between President Giuseppe Conte and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. At this virtual summit, Fincantieri, a leading Italian defense and shipbuilding giant, signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or an MOU, with Cochin Shipyard Limited. And this was to collaborate on ship design, manufacturing, and repair refit services. This marked a critical step in fostering stronger defense ties between the two nations. Now, if you remember, I had told you in the beginning that India-Italy defense relations had been strained, and both countries have acted swiftly to resolve past differences and lay groundwork for deeper defense cooperation. In October of 2023, which is last year, Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh signed a comprehensive defense cooperation agreement with his Italian counterpart during a visit to Rome. Now, this agreement focuses on key areas such as security policy, research and development, and industrial collaboration, signaling the beginning of a new phase in defense engagement between the two nations. Now, what we need to push is that a major boost to this partnership could come from Italian companies investing in India's defense industrial corridors. And we have two, one in Uttar Pradesh and the second one is in Tamil Nadu, which are being developed by the state governments in collaboration with the Ministry of Defense. So, timely investments from Italy and other European partners, in fact, other international partners in these corridors, could play a pivotal role in advancing India's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative by contributing to the local production and value addition of a broad spectrum of defense equipment, not just the big ticket announcements. These investments would significantly strengthen India's defense manufacturing capabilities in the longer run. And then finally, there is also something to underscore in Italy's role in the Indo-Pacific and Africa. And this is an area which is not talked about enough. Unlike many key European nations, Italy doesn't have a formal Indo-Pacific strategy and is often characterized as having an invisible presence in the region. Despite this, the country's increasing engagement with India indicates significant potential for greater cooperation in the Indo-Pacific at large. How can Italy do that? Notably, Italy has aligned itself with one of the core pillars of India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, or the IPOI, which is focused on science and technology, academic cooperation, etc. India's role as a bridge between Italy and other regional powers uniquely positions itself to facilitate trilateral or other plurilateral collaborations. Let me give you an example. A prime example is the potential collaboration between India, Italy, and France, where in the region of Africa, where Rome and Paris traditionally compete for influence. Both countries, France and Italy, are members of the International Solar Alliance, and this offers yet another avenue for India's geopolitical convergence in third countries. Additionally, not many are aware of the trilateral framework involving India, Italy, and Japan. Now, this plurilateral presents a promising platform for strategic engagement in the Indo-Pacific region. However, the trilateral grouping, despite its potential, has not met frequently since its inception and has yet to capitalize on the shared vision of a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific among its member states. In conclusion, I would say that the evolution of India-Italy relations has been remarkably swift, propelled by strong political will on both sides. The dynamic relationship between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Meloni has injected fresh vitality into bilateral ties, transforming geopolitical challenges into opportunities. The key challenge now lies in ensuring that the agreed-upon initiatives are actually implemented with efficiency, both in terms of cost and time, to fully realize the potential of this deepening partnership. Like for Greece and Poland, Prime Minister Modi has done for India-Italy ties what others couldn't do in 40 years. I will be back to track this crucial partnership, both at the bilateral and plurilateral level, to serve India's trade, defense, and connectivity interests in the Mediterranean, in Europe, and in Indo-Pacific at large. Stay tuned.